Wholeness and balance vibration to everyone, and thank you for tuning in. I'm here as promised to shoot an amazing video today, really one of the most comprehensive that I think that will be on the internet. And it's because, of course, we've really gotten deep into the water for the last 5 years, and today we're going to show what we've learned. But before I do that, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Sevan Bomar. Some people do know me from AstroQuest. Some people know me from The Resistance. And today, it doesn't matter if you know me at all, because what you're actually going to learn is going to change your life. So the goal of today's video is to actually get you the information that you need about the water as rapidly as possible. Many people that will be tuning into this will be water connoisseurs. So in the future, we'll of course have a lot more videos of just explaining deeply about what each one of these machines can do and what they can't do and what the overall results. Today, we're actually going to be introducing something amazing. We're going to be talking about how we can change not only the surface tension of water, the pH balance of water, the structure of water, but also the ORP of water, which is a very important thing, and it's not scientific and complex to understand. So today you'll have a really good idea about exactly what determines the energy principles and property in water. So let's go ahead and get to this. Right away, and let me see if I can get on this side of the board. There we go. Right away, just to make this very simple without going into deep levels of understanding about the activation and about the body, which we specialize in, it's important to see that you have, or focus on that you have 3 bodies, but more importantly, 3 elements that you need to sustain yourself. The main element, or number 1, would be breath. And we can all agree that you can go without air only a short period of time, while you can go without water for a little bit longer, and of course without food for a little bit longer. So we'll put those 2 here. Water, all right, and food. All right, and let me go ahead and zoom in a little bit so you can check that out. Obviously the cameraman is off today, but we want to make sure that we get this video out, and we don't want to let anything stop us, because this knowledge right here is going to let you learn how to regenerate your body. So right off, our next video actually is going to be about breath. So if you do want to subscribe, you'll probably catch that. And in addition, just to understand where we're coming from with this, is kind of the disclaimer, is that we're really involved in spiritual expansion, meaning that this is more important to us than anything else. And so this is what we've been focusing on for years and years now. And I definitely can see now that it's become more of a fad to be into the whole new age and being about healing the body and activation and higher consciousness. But to us, it's a lot more serious than a fad. It's something that we know we can achieve, we have achieved already, and we've made a lot of headway, especially in the areas of what is called fringe. Even though they throw it in the movies all the time and they show you different things that are capable in this reality, a lot of people don't think that that is true. They keep it on a fictional level. So in every tense, these videos that are coming up are about getting out of the body, how to manage yourself outside the body, how to manage yourself inside this world, how to master this world, to understand the blueprint of this world, and then also most importantly, how to deal with the environment inside your body. So our next video is going to be about breathing. It's going to be about some techniques that actually let you see how to take your body into a higher stage of consciousness through what we call the front door, which is basically through breath. But today actually is about water. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So how this works is basically, as you know it, water is a very vital, necessary part of your existence. So if it is, then why are we not looking deeper into the kind of water or fuel that we're putting into our vital body, okay, to see if, 1, it contains enough energy for us to even do anything with it, and 2, can it actually be perfected to a point where we actually can use water as either not only a fuel, because it is a fuel, but as a super fuel. So how can we purify, cleanse, and refine water? And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Okay, so as I mentioned before, we are water connoisseurs, meaning we got onto this water thing a long time ago. We've been exploring water, seeing how to restructure water, seeing how to purify water, seeing if water can hold memory, see if we can project through water. There's been a lot of stuff going on with the water. So of course, this made us have to understand how water works and how to get it into the stage that we're actually looking for. Keeping in mind that anytime they do something in the laboratory, they need to have a specific kind of water, and that water can have nothing in it. And this is so important because if you're in some kind of experiment, especially when they're testing for very light traces of things, if there's something in the water, then all those tests are nil. So that means millions and millions of dollars will be wasted. So the ability to actually purify water has been mastered already. But how to restructure it, how to give it energy, those things kind of remain in the area of, I won't just say fringe, but in the area of the unknown for many of the major companies that produce water. But it's Fiji, it's Alpina, it's all these different waters we'll test out around the same as what we're going to show you today goes on with the water. So what we're talking about doing, though, is we're talking about boosting it even higher. And there's a lot of videos out there already that show people pH testing and testing the amount of particles inside of different kind of water. So you can always check out those. Okay, so just to get a quick idea of what we're really working with here, we actually just sent the Jupiter Athena back to the United States because I'm just going to get rid of it because it doesn't really work in our workflow. But those kind of systems are filtration-based systems that change the alkalinity and the acidity in the water so it can affect the pH. This machine here, we'll talk about this in a minute. This machine here is a very familiar machine for many people. It's called the Big Berkey. I think it's got some water in it now. And actually, we're going to test that water, so let me pull a little bit closer forward here. But this is the Big Berkey water filter, and it uses reverse osmosis filtration and carbon filtration system. There's different filters that you can get. And really, see, for the bang for the buck, we use this to actually purify tap water to a certain degree in order to cook with it. Because if you start to use your distilled water and waters that you're preparing with other devices to cook with, it can get quite pricey. So that's the next thing that we really want to look at here, especially if you're trying to figure out yourself what you're going to do to purify your filter your water at home. This is what's called a mega home distiller. Okay, and the mega home distiller is your standard home distiller that uses condensation. And we already got a fresh brew of distilled water actually put together here now, and we're going to be using this throughout our experiment. But just so you understand, this distills about 1 gallon of water every 2.5 hours, and that does show up on your power bill. So I will tell you that we often weigh buying the water versus this machine, but of course this machine comes in favor because you don't know where the water that they've been distilling comes from. Not to mention when it sits in those plastic containers, it leaches all of the plastic off the containers, and so you're drinking that. So we elected to go with the Mega Home Distiller just for home distillation, and we have 2 of these. This other machine, this big boy right here, is known as the Eltron. Let me get the correct model number for you just so I don't yeah, that's correct. This is an Eltron 4. There's also an Eltron 5. And what this is it's a UV water distiller. Obviously, this thing does use a lot of power, but just to understand the difference between the condensation distiller versus the UV, the condenser distiller versus the UV distiller, is Jim Ellis did a great job. You can check out his website, I believe it's jimellis.com. That's the Eltron. He does a great job in explaining how the manufacturers of these particular machines had an objective to actually make these distillers a lot more cheaper and to use the condensation process. But even though when you test a lot of this water, the ppm that comes out in this water actually is generally down behind the decimal point, meaning that it's almost nothing in it. But what he says is that almost nothing in it is actually ultra concentration at times of other elements that are in the water. And the only way to fully remove everything out of the water, like what we would call lab water, is to use a UV filtration system, which is the same system that most laboratories and most places use, or they get their water from places that use that kind of equipment. So very easily you understand the difference between the two. Personally, you're talking about good, better, best, especially in relation to tap water. But again, if you're an ultra water connoisseur, you want to understand the difference between UV and condensation, these are the two. So let's go ahead and get our ppm meter here, so that way we can also test parts per million as we're going through this test today, because that's going to be very important. Okay, let's get to it because we got a lot of ground to cover. And if people think that, I may be moving a little fast, it's 1, that reason. And 2, because I'm super charged up. Like, that's what this is about. It's about the energetic potential within the elements that we're putting within our system. And we should be able to see that potential vividly, because that's what it's really all about. Like, there is a real way to charge the body, to charge the blood. Also, with at the end of this video, we're going to source some more links. And those links basically explain to you how to look at some of the other videos. They give you information to some of the other videos that are out. Both of these videos are very old, but it is about the product that I'm showing you today and a live blood analysis test of how it actually affects the blood. I'm going to go ahead and, well, you won't know this behind the scenes, but I'm going to go ahead and install this camera, put it on my chest so you can look at what I'm looking at as I'm doing this testing, and that's how you get post-production done without cutting off your head. So here we go. All right, this thing is ready to go. Man, it feels so good to be back on camera. I've been obviously building the Secret Energy website, and that's been a fanfare, but it's also taken me away from a lot of the capacity that I'm normally in the social networks, and on the social networks, and also doing shows and things talking about consciousness. While I'm getting this together, I will tell everyone that you can also tune into what we have going on at astroquest.tv, and that too, but astroquest.com will get you the actual main links to all of our resources. And then beyond that, you can also see us at astroquest.tv. You could see the run of AstroQuest Season 1, 2, and 3. We're available at the Resistance 2010 website. The Resistance is actually #1 on the Google for those keywords, so it's been quite a mission. And then obviously I wrote a book about 4 or 5 years ago called The Code of the Matrix, which teaches you about language, shows you the keys and the codes within language in order to understand how that's programming your system. So here we go. All right, so what we're going to do first is we're going to get familiar with what kind of testing we're going to be doing here and what kind of devices we're going to be using. So this device here is actually your standard TDS or your actual testing meter. This meter is going to give us how many particles per million are actually in the water. This other device here is known as a HANA HI98121. For those people that are looking for it, it is an Orc Tester. Excuse me, there's a screen right up here that I keep looking at. So if you're wondering why I'm looking over the camera, just realize that sometimes I forget. Okay, I'm looking at here. But anyway, so what this is that this is an Orc Tester and a pH tester. It also tests the temperature of water, which won't be useful for us today. But what will be is the Orc testing and the pH testing. So let me go ahead and get this board. Actually, we won't even need it. I'm going to explain this ORP to you so that way it becomes very clear. Actually, yeah, let's go ahead and use it as a visual representation. Let me see if I could just zoom in just a little bit over there and turn it over here just a little bit. And there you go. So let me explain this to you of what ORP is and why it's so valuable for you to actually know what the ORP is of what you're consuming, because it has a lot to do with the fountain of youth. And here we go. ORP is oxygen reduction potential, okay? O-R-P. And I'm going to explain this simple. It actually works contrary to how we generally do our calculations about positive and negative. So that's the only thing to really catch on to here, that actually positive ORP is what you don't want, or the bad one. Negative ORP is actually what you want. That's the good one. And so let me explain it very briefly. What ORP is basically, it's how much is the element oxidizing. So to understand oxidation, apple when left out starts to turn brown. That is oxidation. It's basically getting older, right? So from there, what you're measuring with the positive ORP is how rapidly is it making something get older. Versus if you obviously have some negative ORP, that means it's not making it oxidize at all. And in fact, it may be hydrating it, replenishing it, regenerating it, okay? And so this is very important, especially for the test that we're about to conduct, because you're going to see something amazing. So just remember, positive ORP, which is like soda. We have some soda here. We're going to test it. And last time I checked, it was positive 400, okay? So it's very oxidizing, okay? And then while distilled water, I believe last time we checked, was also still oxidizing, but it was around 80. And then tap water 200. But we're going to go ahead and get some real figures here, and we're going to put those figures on the board. And then that's going to be your reference to knowing exactly which one of these waters contain what, and how you can determine, what's going to be the best water for you. And here we are. Okay, so what I bought today for us to do some testing with the different kind of waters is I've gotten some distilled water, which we have here. I have la cocaína, and I have the big Berkey, which has some water in it, we're going to pour out. And then we're also going to grab some tap water. And then we're going to put them into the corresponding cups. Soda, tap water, distilled water, and we're going to use this as our cleaner. Okay, so let's do that. So here we go. Incoming. All right, that's going to go in here. So this stuff doesn't break the meters. Then we'll take some of this tap water over here. Okay. And we'll go ahead and pour out some of this distilled water just a little bit because we want to do some testing about the strength of this particular product that we're going to be testing today and how much it can actually take the negative ORP off or positive ORP off of something. And then we're also going to use this water for our cleaner since it is the more closer to being neutral. Okay? So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get into the ppm. That's the parts per million. How many parts per million do these different waters have? And so we're going to go ahead and start off with the, yeah, let's go ahead and start off with tap water because that's what people use the most. And so when we put that in, and you should be able to see that on the camera, you'll see that this tap water, which is actually great for tap water these days, is at 153 ppm. Now we're going to do a little cleansing. And here we go with distilled water. And actually, this is a good distillation. It's at 0. And just for kicks, we're going to test the soda. Gee, Willikers, Batman. It's jumping all around. It hit 600 at first. The machine went into shock. Now it's about 314, and it's trying to level itself out. It's down to 280. It's back to 324. So basically it's volatile. And the other thing that we're going to test here is we're going to test the water once it's run through the Berkey filter. Now this is also to give you an idea of what most people are drinking. And remember, we're in Costa Rica, so this is some of the best water that you can really get as far as some of the aqueduct water. But this is still the result of distillation. Okay, meaning that all this flake and scale that you're seeing on the side here is what's in the tap water. And so what's happening is, it's not a joke, this gets around your glands and it gets around different parts of the body and it calcifies those areas, making you unable to generate energy. Okay, so this is a serious thing, the water thing, especially if you're trying to figure out how you're going to preserve yourself. So let's go ahead and get this out of here so we don't break it. And then let's go ahead and clean it off. And then we're going to also test this water coming out of the Berkey filtration system, which is here. Okay, so this is your Berkey. Okay, so your Berkey basically took down the ppm only like 6. So you can see that, as I've always said, that gravity filters. And it does, of course, filter out many other pesticides and different things that are really harmful in the water. But overall, unless the water goes through distillation process, then it's still going to have removed the same amount of ppm that was in it initially. In addition, it's important to also realize that that city water is generally has a lot higher ppm. So what I was saying about the Big Berkey is basically that it still contains the water, as we've tested it, still contains a relatively high amount of ppm, which is basically the same amount that was in the tap water, showing that realistically the filtration of the Big Berkey system, it does remove a lot of the elements that would be very harmful to the body, but it doesn't remove everything, which pushes us into using distilled water. But there's something very important about distilled water that you need to know. And this is because many people recommend just drinking distilled water or going to drink distilled water, and then you see other information that's kind of contrary to that. So I'm going to explain this very briefly so you can understand why there's so much disinformation about whether you should drink tap water or whether you should drink distilled water, okay? And if distilled water is actually bad for you, okay? And so let me explain to you how this works. When you distill water and you get it down to 0 ppm, like what you're seeing right there, it now has nothing in it, okay? And water's innate ability is actually to absorb minerals, okay? So we won't get into any of the scientific side, we won't get into any of the spiritual side, we'll just get into it directly that it needs to absorb those minerals, okay? So when you drink distilled water, what happens is that the water starts pulling the minerals out of the body. And so it could be something immediate that people begin to notice. Other people start working through it and then their body compensates for it and they don't feel it as much, but it's still going on. And what I'm talking about is basically a certain level of tiredness and weakness that begins to occur with the body over time as all the elements that are basically supposed to be inside the body, all the minerals that are supposed to be in the body, are leached out of the body through the distilled water. So how you fix this is you just add minerals to the water, what's called trace minerals to the water. And it just so happens that also the element that we're using today does add a mineral base to the water. So it works in many different ways, but this is the most amazing part. So let's get into this. And now we get to the main part, the climax of today's show. And it's about how this amazing product that we're using changes everything, okay? And this product that we're talking about is Patrick Flanagan's Megahydrate. Okay, so you see it here, all right? And then there it is there, okay? And we're actually running a special on this product. I've even had an opportunity to interface with the company Phi Sciences, with Ken Sheets very briefly through the email. And then I've also studied much of Pat Flanagan's work, especially as far as the neurophone. But that wasn't actually how I came into this product. I came into this product somewhat on a humbug, going through Amazon for hydration and hydrogen and different things like that. And what happened was I came across an article that a guy basically said, well, I don't know if this product is really working or not, but what I do know is that when I tested it on the Orc meter, that it actually had a negative Orc, but I don't know what that means. And I was like, what? A negative Orc? Let me go ahead and check it out. So I went ahead and bought some. I got it into the house. I finally got a chance to sit down and do the test on the meters, and I had some amazing results, the same results that I'm going to show you today. And I'm going to tell you what the importance of these results are, because we've been doing this for a long time, and to get this kind of result out of the water is really untold of it. We have high-powered lasers. We have big stir plates, big magnetic fields that we use. We use the distilled water. We freeze the distilled water. So we've done a lot of different things with water, but it hasn't produced these kind of results. But our main goal has always been to, one, reduce the surface tension of water, thus making water wetter. And what that means is that most of the water that you're drinking and much of this water that we're testing, even though we don't have a surface tension tester today, but that water has a very high surface tension level. So what that means is that means that how it absorbs into your body, meaning that when you drink it on the edge of the water, if it's very brittle, it doesn't really absorb because the body, it won't soak into the body. The body needs something to soak into it. So what this actual product does is it actually takes the surface tension down, allowing the water to really absorb better, but it also raises it brings the Orc into the negatives, making the water what would basically be not only hydrating, but very regenerating. And as I said with the other video, and I may show a little clip of it here, under the actual analysis of the microscope or the blood analysis, you see the blood developing an orb or a halo around the blood. And what all this really means is that you're really looking at something that can increase not only the energy potential of the body, but also actually repairing different situations that go on in the blood. Now, obviously, there's a lot of disclaimers. There's only certain things that you can really say, but all of what we present, especially over at realmdynamics.com, we've had to try and test, and we only add what we call the cream of all the supplements. So remember, the goal here is not to sell you anything, although it's Christmas time and these people are selling a lot of plastic coming from all sorts of places. What we're saying is that this stuff will not only change your body, it will change your life because it'll work directly with your blood. So let's do this test. Here we go. We're taking a little bit of this, and what we're going to start with, we're not even going to deal with the soda, even though we will do something with that for just kicks later on. But we want to really start with this distilled water, right? Because this distilled water is going to let us see right off what's happening because there's nothing inside of this to interact with, right? So 0 ppm. So here we go. We're just going to take a little bit, okay? And let me, oh, there we go. Yeah, there we go. I do have some distilled water over here so we can test. Anyway, everyone's seen what's going on. This camera's been on the whole time. So here we go. This is the miraculous part. Now remember, I'm going to take this cleaner, okay, just to give you a good idea, because remember the cleaner's got different stuff in it, but it gives us a good millivolt reading, right? So this thing, excuse me, powered off on me there. There we go. Okay, so you see it's giving out a positive 267 ORP. Okay, now watch. Boom. ORP's going down. ORP's at 14. ORP's at negative 43. ORP's at 178. Oh, gee, Willa, because ORP's at 257. ORP's at 290. ORP's at 300. ORP's still going. ORP's at 335, and we've only put a partial capsule of this in here. So this is it. This is proof beyond the shadow of a doubt that you've just increased the energetic potential and reduced the oxidization principle of this distilled water. Okay? The best of the best water anyway. But let's keep going with this. Okay? We're going to go ahead and clean it off with our cleaner, and we're going to go to this tap water here, okay? Okay? And then tap water is at 148 ORP or 49 ORP now, okay? So we'll go ahead and add this to it. Just a little bit. Okay, and we just add a little bit. You can see how much was added. And the ORP's already dropping. So we're not even talking about a lot of this here. We're talking about small amounts of this hydrogen ions. The water starts dropping drastically as far as the oxidation levels. Okay? To a point where what we did was we took a small amount, about this much of this, maybe about that much, and we added it into an entire gallon of water. And then we tested it again and shown that it was actually able to change a large amount of the water. And let's go ahead and do that now. And again, what makes this amazing is that we're just testing water. So imagine what this is doing inside of the body. Remember, that's the key thing here, is to change the water, because the body is 70% water, but this is also a capsule that you just put into your system. All right, so that's going to do it for today. So what did we learn? We learned a lot. We learned exactly how to get the pH higher. Man, we didn't even test the pH. Man, I guess that'll have to be another show, but the pH does raise. Now remember, the whole goal with pH is to actually get it into the balance, but this supplement actually does add about 2 pH to the water, so it gives it more of an alkaline nature. But again, I don't want to take up any more of your time. This is something that's amazing. It's something that you need to try for yourself. You'll feel the energetic potential, so there's no placebo. You can actually go to realmdynamics.com. You'll find this supplement there, and then also it'll be on the main page, so it won't be hard for you to get to. In addition to that, if you use the coupon code SECRETENERGY, all one word, then you'll get an additional 10% off. In addition to that, you can use that code to get off of other things that we have on the site, because we have the world's first monatomic product, super deformed nuclear hybrids with our laboratory in Switzerland. We have Ayurveda, the cream of the Ayurveda with the essence put in from the Rinpoches over in the East. We, of course, have our Ethereum products. We have our colloid products. We have different things there, but only the stuff that does the major metamorphosis with your body. And remember that. We have only the stuff that does the major metamorphosis with your body, because we're into no placebo. We're trying to get somewhere. We're going to get somewhere, and we're doing this now. So remember, subscribe. Get ready to check out this breathing video next. That's going to come up, and that's going to teach you how to get high on your own air. Wholeness, balance, one.